Good evening, afternoon, or morning, everyone. We're back from a long holiday break, and yes, we have a bonus episode of the Big Northeast Pod. John and I are back because, as most of you know, Rutgers made a bowl, the all or nothing bowl eligibility bowl bash between Maryland and Rutgers was not so, as both teams did make a bowl due to some extra circumstances with Rutgers going to the Gator Bowl. So we're going to preview that one as a little addendum to our bowl coverage. John, how's everything going?
Everything's all right, man. You know, we were just talking bummer with COVID. Luckily, it seems like a lot of the teams that have been affected and or everyone that I've heard of is doing well. So we wish the best to everybody who's contracted COVID, and hope everybody stays safe. You know, obviously, secondarily, a bummer for us that these games are getting canceled or players are pulling out. But hey, it's life.
Yeah, exactly. C'est la vie, as they say. And again, yeah, just to reiterate what John said, hope everyone's safe in the holidays too. I mean, whatever happens to these bowls is secondary to, I guess, the whole life circumstances too of this pandemic. So with that being said, this bowl game, the Gator Bowl, this has to be Rutgers' most prestigious bowl appearance. It's crazy to think about, I guess, up to this point, the most prestigious bowl Rutgers has been to is either, I'd say, the Champ Sports Bowl in 2012, or I guess the Pinstripe Bowl, considering it's Yankee Stadium. And I mean, that stadium has a long pedigree of big games, but none of those games really consequential to the college football, I guess, postseason. So I don't know, John, what are your thoughts on this, I guess, this bowl for Rutgers' program, like the impact of it?
I mean, this is certainly the best opponent they've ever played in a bowl game. I mean, this year's Wake Forest team, there were a game away from ACC champions, and what did they finish up 10-2? Is that right? Or
10-3, 10-3.
10-3. Yeah, with the championship game. I forget who Rutgers played the year that they went 10-2, but I think it was somebody that was 7-5. It was somebody who was not a top 25 team for sure, back in the early 2000s. So that would have been the only other contender. And this year's Wake Forest team is definitely the best opponent they played by far. I think this is hands down the most prestigious bowl they've played in. I mean, they kind of, back into it in a roundabout way here, and whatever. They're in the game, and they've got a shot. I mean, they're I think 14-point dogs, but hey, could be worse.
Yeah, exactly. And I was about to mention that 06 team, that 06 10-2 team that they played Kansas State second stint, Bill Snyder, Kansas State, who was only 7-5 too. So you mentioned that. But it's great for the program too. Like you said, they backed into it, but I mean, I'm sure this is way better than anyone in Piscataway expected for a year or two of the Greg Schiano 2.0 regime. It is a bit weird seeing that a conference runner-up playing a 5-7 team as their reward. It just kind of reeks. I wouldn't say it reeks futility with the game being in Jacksonville, but I mean, it kind of has like, it's kind of funny that situation would play out in the Jaguars stadium of all teams. And I'm not trying to beat up on the Jaguars, but it's just funny how that works out. I guess as for the matchup too, I guess what are your thoughts? Do you think Rutgers can keep it within the 14-point spread? I mean, I think the way that they play, I think they can make this closer than the 14-point spread with their downhill running game, but I don't know. I'm 50-50 on that, honestly.
I think if they had been originally slated to play from get-go, I would say, yeah, I think that 14-point spread looks attainable for Rutgers. But I mean, they're coming in with much less prep time. I know Rutgers, they end their academic semester late, so all their players were still there on campus, but I'm sure they weren't practicing at the same rate as they would in season. So I think having much less prep time. From what I understand, we're probably going to see 3 quarterbacks in this game for Rutgers. We're going to see Bedrell, the starter, of course. Wimsatt, the heir apparent, I'm told is probably going to see about 50% time, maybe 40% of the time, which could be good or bad for Rutgers. I mean, he should be playing as a senior in high school this year. And then Langen, we'll probably see a bit in Wildcat or special situations and whatnot. So I think with Wimsatt, I don't think Shiano's going to pull him if he ends up doing poorly. You know, I think they want to see him get some reps. They want to see what he's got. They want to see, you know, prep him for next year. So I think if they had more prep time and they were not treating it as much of a prep for Wimsat, I think you'd probably see them keeping it within 14. But with that, I don't know. I think it's certainly possible, but I think closer to 20 points might be what we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree for the most part. I think for me, the key is the downhill run game that they have. Wake Forest has one of the worst rushing defenses in the country at 114th. And Rutgers, that's the game that they like to play. It seems like Shiano's brought back that sort of like mid 2000s, early 2000s Rutgers type of, brand of play, you know, with like the Brian Leonard, the Ray Rice type of downhill run game. Isaiah Pacheco's had a fair year, over 600 yards rushing in a Hula Bowl invite. I expect him to have a big game. In addition to that, too, if they get behind, I don't see it being a problem with Rutgers coming back and throwing the ball because, I'd hate to reiterate back to Army, but Army had a 10 of 13, 179 yards and 3 touchdowns passing against Wake Forest. So, in my opinion, that's the case for it. But if you look at Rutgers' track record this year against explosive offenses, against Maryland, they lost like 41-13 or 40-16. They lost that one. Ohio State dropped 52 on them. And even Michigan State, too, if you want to call that an explosive offense, they weren't really competitive in that one. So that's the case against it. But I can see it going either way, too. I can see Shiano leaning heavily on the ground game. And, taking the ball out of Sam Hartman's hands. That's the only way you can really do it.
Yeah, I think the wild card of it is like, they're coming in. It's an unusual story. They got a week to prepare. Nobody's really expecting much out of Rutgers. They can, if they get blown out, they can just say, hey, weren't even supposed to be in this bowl. So I think that means that they're probably going to take it down to the wire and maybe even pull it off with just the way that sports go. I think they'll feel really loose. Like I think if you're a Rutgers fan, you'll feel good saying like these kids are going to come in. They're not going to be nervous. They're not going to be worried about this game. Like their expectations all season, weren't this. And they weren't even supposed to be playing in this game. So I think they're going to come in real loose. So that's the argument for Rutgers in this game, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree too. And like, as much as I hate pulling the whole bowl of destination argument, it's like you give college age kids a free trip to Jacksonville. They'll feel loose, they'll have a good time with it. I'm hoping for a competitive game too. But this is, do you think this shows that Rutgers is developing ahead of pace in year 2 of Greg Schiano, or are they just at pace in your opinion?
I'd say it's close to at pace to slightly above. We saw 5-7 was kind of about what we expected for year 2. Maybe that is a bit of an ambitious expectation. I think early on in the season, they did pretty well against the likes of like Cuse and Temple and whatnot. I thought maybe they might be able to steal another game in Big Ten play, but they didn't. So 6-6, I think would have been, and bowl eligible would have been a pretty remarkable season. Would have definitely said, hey, above expectation, faster than the expected pace. But 5-7. Yeah, it's still, we're not that far away from being ahead of schedule. So I'd say, kind of slightly ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. You could say that in 2020, like they kind of stole some wins too. I guess 2020 could be kind of, as a fluke year if you look back at it, with the win over, or I guess with the near victory over Michigan, and like just the good performances that Rutgers had throughout that season. But I expect them to take the next step next year. I haven't looked at their non-conference schedule, but I do think they're competing better in the Big Ten, and they could steal more wins too, from at least in the Big Ten East, and definitely from cross-divisional opponents, depending who they draw next year. So I definitely agree that they're a little bit ahead of schedule, if not on schedule. One thing I want to add, I guess moving on as we head towards the end, is I think it's cool that, Rutgers being a former Big East school is in the Gator Bowl. The Gator Bowl being like the consolation prize, that second place Big East team for so many years. Rutgers never made it then, but I mean, it's got kind of, I guess, a nostalgic feel, being played in the early afternoon. Rutgers, a former Big East school. All we need is is NBC on the call with either Tom Hammond or Charlie Jones calling the game. So little nostalgic feel there.
Yeah, right on. And sorry about that, Omar. I was trying to get the sun out of my eyes. I'm in a new house, so I don't know how to work all of the the shades and other implements and such.
Yeah, no worries. I have my brother in the background fidgeting around, so I mean, not a worry at all. But yeah, John, do you have anything else to add about this game as a little add-on to our bowl preview?
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about a little bit so like the actual gameplay. I'm excited to see kind of the chess match between Wake Forest offense and Rutgers' defense. I think Sam Hartman versus Fadou Kassi, that duel will be pretty interesting. Rutgers was, I think, somewhere around the top 50 defense in the country playing in the Big Ten East. So I mean, I guess a little bit of Big Ten is not an amazing offensive conference, but they are, it is a pretty strong conference. So, I'd say them versus Wake Forest, which is, I don't know what definitely a top 20, maybe a top 10 offense in the country. Will be, I mean, Wake Forest should have the edge, but that's certainly what I'm interested in seeing. And then on the other side of the ball, Wake Forest defense is not very highly touted. So I think, as you're mentioning, Rutgers could get that run game going. I would love, and I think we'll see some trickeration from Schiano. I think he's, it's probably pretty obvious to Wake and to everyone else that it's going to be coming. But I think we'll see a little wildcat package. I think we'll see a couple flea flickers. I think we'll see maybe a halfback pass or a wide receiver pass, something along those lines. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of teams have brought up trickeration as well, too. And from a Rutgers standpoint, offensively, I forgot to mention Bo Melton, who's a guy that's sliding up draft boards, a really athletic receiver. I think he should have a good game, too, playing off the play action for the Scarlet Knights as well. But, I mean, you hit the matchup on the head. I mean, Rutgers had their moments, defensively, but it's kind of interesting because Wake Forest has a different ACC, faster play style of play. And, when they played the teams that are closest to Wake Forest in terms of scheme, like Ohio State, and Maryland, the defense kind of folded too. Rutgers benefited from playing the likes of Northwestern, Michigan too. I mean, I remember seeing Cade McNamara's sort of spray chart or pass chart, and there was really no deep passing game to even speak of for Michigan. So it will be interesting as well. But it's kind of weird because you wouldn't think of Rutgers being that sort of model Big Ten team that likes to run the ball and plays good defense, but they've kind of fit that mold, and they're kind of playing a new animal this New Year's Eve.
Yeah, indeed. But hey, if as long as we can get the game actually to kick off, I'll be happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't want to jinx anything. So I'm staying mum on the status of all these bowls, especially the two remaining that I'm going to. The Fenway Bowl got canceled, but still got the Holiday and the Sun Bowl. Hopefully those are still on. But yeah.
Hey man, I mean, you're playing with house money already. Army got that great win over Mizzou.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It wasn't it was a gritty win. Wasn't the prettiest early on. I mean, Missouri ran roughshod straight through Army. I mean, it was really concerning as well. I don't think Missouri punted the whole game too as well, but the red zone defense stiffened, or I guess the red zone / pass plus territory defense stiffened and made Missouri settle for field goals. And really, I was glad to see Army play the game that they should play, that they should have played against Navy, handing the ball off to the fullback, going down in the trenches. Because if you look at some of the all 22 footage against Navy, I mean, the Navy, I guess Army's linemen were dominating the Navy interior. They were dominating the Navy interior, excuse me. And looking at the stats, I think the fullbacks only got 4 to 6 carries. But, I mean, everyone saw the Jacoby Buchanan touchdown where he trucked over a defender, Mike Allstott style. And, that's Army football. So that's all I got to say about that. Next year looks to be a good year, too. So, yeah.
Oh, one other thing that you just reminded me of talking about punting. I believe Rutgers' punter, Korsak, who was did pretty well this year. He is in Australia, and he will not be able to return for the bowl game. So they're going to be missing him, which
wow.
will probably be somewhat of some consequence, I would imagine, because he did pretty well this year. And I don't know if he was all Big Ten or anything like that, but it's definitely a pretty sizable loss for them. I don't know who their backup is, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think about that. I think it's like the first time that's I guess ever happened in terms of bowl season. I remember he was a Ray Guy finalist, averaging about 46 yards a kick. Not quite a rise in numbers, but tons of 50-yard kicks. Looking at his game log, yeah, I mean that is a huge loss to you, because if you look at Rutgers, the style of play that they have, like you want to remain mistake free. I guess it's more of a conservative style of play, so you want to depend on that punting game to like get you the field position. I mean, just playing conservatively, running the ball, but that definitely is a hit to them as well. So no, I mean didn't see that. So again, an added factor with this just weird bowl season.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I think that's all we have to say about this one. And again, I guess a good year for Northeast bowl teams too. Even the have-nots relatively recently have made bowls this year, so we'll see how they perform and carry the flag of the Northeast. This is a signature game for the Rutgers program. And I guess one last question too: if Rutgers ends up winning this game, do you think it's the biggest win in their program's history?
No, I wouldn't say biggest win. Was it West Virginia they beat, or UConn back in the old Big East days?
The Louisville game?
Louisville, yeah. They were like number 2 in the country at the time, something like that. I would put that as the biggest win in Rutgers football history, just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's, Rutgers fans could probably point me to something else, but I would say even if they beat Wake here, it's a big win. It's probably a top 5 win in their history, but I wouldn't say biggest.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Just wanted your opinion, because like I mean, again, I think about that one too, and I guess the USF game where they upset USF when they were winning. The Bulls were number 2, just a weird time. But yeah, no, it should be interesting for sure. I do want to mention this is Wake Forest's first Gator Bowl since 1946, and the coach then was a man named P-Head Walker. I wanted to insert a P-Head Walker reference in here, because you look at that name, it's hilarious. Whether it was a nickname out of, I guess, out of love or hate, I don't know. We'll have to see.
I don't know. Any P-Head Walker stands out there, get at us on Twitter, let us know.
And with that, again, we're signing off with I guess the actual season finale of the Northeast Bull Rush. Again, John, it's been great. Reiterate, I said this last time, just want to reiterate again, it's been great and a fun time. And thank you.
Thank you, Omar.
All right, until next time, peace, love, and soul.